different parts of Kenya, a live studio audience is about to shoot unscripted questions. This is Agenda Kenya with Jason Nyantino.
On Agenda Kenya tonight, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, Member of Parliament Ndaragwa, Deputy Government Chief Whip, Hannington Gaya, CEO and Publisher, Media 7 Group Kenya Limited, Opere Nyaroya, Engineer cum Evangelist, and last but not least, Irungu Kangata, Constitutional Lawyer. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Welcome to Agenda Kenya with me, Jason Nyantino. Tonight's focus, we're looking at the performance record of the 10th Parliament. Are we happy with the laws that the Parliament has passed so far, or are we not? I got fantastic audience members coming in from Nairobi County, Embu County, and all the way from Garissa County. Welcome aboard. Our first question of the evening is from Architect Nyamai Wambua.
My question is about the new date of the next general elections, which has already been set by the IEBC. Kenyans have been treated to a lot of drama surrounding this date. And since the 10th Parliament is the representation of the wish and the voice of the ordinary Kenyans, the majority Kenyans, we are wondering why the Parliament has not taken leadership in setting out and addressing this matter and stop lynching IEBC after it has already done its constitutional mandate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nyamai. Mheshimiwa Kioni, you're the only parliamentarian on the panel.
I think members of parliament will perhaps be seen to be lynching the IEBC. Must have reasons as to why they are doing it, but I think we should be guided more than just populism and look at what it is that is before us. We have a judgment that came from the judiciary. We are saying that it is important that we respect institutions. We may have had personal preferences. Some wanted it in August, others wanted it in December. The courts have come saying that it should come in sometimes after the 13th of January 2013, within 60 days. And I think it has a lot to do with the interpretation of the Constitution, and we would want the courts to continue interpreting the Constitution. And once the interpretations have been done, then it is important that as a country, we respect that position that the courts have done. If we need it in December, an amendment may of necessity be done by Parliament. As whether we have that time or whether there is that political will, that's another question.
Just for the record, Mheshimiwa, where do you want this election to be held?
I would want the elections to be held where the judiciary has directed.
Where is that?
They have said 4th of March next year. My take is that there was that option that the two principals can break the coalition and then we can have elections. And I doubt whether the breaking of the government would resort to dissolving Parliament. I think that's an issue that requires interpretation.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. Hannington, do you think Parliament has failed to offer leadership in terms of the election date?
I think I would say, without apologizing, that the 10th Parliament, in my opinion, has failed not only to help set that election date, but has failed in practically every important legislation. And they have been claiming that one of the achievements is the enactment of the new constitution, while all of us know that that achievement should rest on the laurel of the committee of experts who made sure that they had a document that a rogue parliament, they could do the damage that they have been doing, dilly-dallying, whatnot, but at least we have achieved something through the document. And the other achievement you can say is the president who facilitated that, and the former minister for justice, Mutula Kilonzo, who averred when he took over that ministry that he will make sure, if anything else, a new constitution. And for the sake of our viewers, you do know that the current constitution has a lot of loopholes. It has a lot of mistakes. The cause of those mistakes have been the MPs when they met in Naivasha. They mutilated, through partisan interest, they mutilated a very beautiful document. So we have ended up with the constitution that has got a lot of flaws, you would be shocked.
So
And so far,
yes.
Parliament itself has violated the current constitution, I think more than 51, if I had time, I would tell you how, 51 occasions. The constitution that was passed set a timetable for everything and put in place important legislation that Parliament must pass in good time to have an election. When they dilly-dallied and they delayed and everybody knows for what interest, that's why we had the court case. So somebody cannot now come and say, we have a court case, so we are following the court case. For me, I think
All
that,
right.
is a lie.
Thank you, Hannington. Irungu, he says, if I got him correctly, nothing good has come out of this 10th Parliament. Do you agree?
No, it is not true. First and foremost, peace was brought into this country by Parliament. How? You remember after the post-election violence in the year 2008, Parliament is the one which ushered in the peace deal through an act of Parliament. That is in the year 2008. Number two, Parliament is the one which ushered in the new constitution that we have. Well, we may say it has problems. I disagree. It doesn't have problems. We are talking about a constitution that was voted by Kenyans. So therefore, when you say it has problems, you are saying Kenyans have problems. Do you have problems, you Kenyans? I doubt it.
Maybe they do. I don't know.
Number three.
Going back to, as you go to number three, please be faithful to Wambua's question. Do you think we need leadership from Parliament in terms of election date?
Yes, indeed. I suppose we need some leadership on that aspect. Although I would suppose Parliament does not have political will to interfere with that court judgment. For obvious reasons. Majority of MPs want that election next year. They have loans. They would like to enjoy those perks for a longer period. So therefore, they don't have the political will.
Mheshimiwa, do you have loans? Do you have a loan? Or is he imputing improper motives on you?
As of having financial obligations, it would be expected of any person who is would want to make some changes in his or her own life.
Okay.
But I would not want us to just bring it down to that level. There is the reality of it that we have, if we have to get the date done or elections done in December, we need a constitutional amendment. Okay. There is a pending bill that will certainly come to the floor of the House. But what I'm saying is that even as we continue debating this, there is that happiness in demonizing members of Parliament. And that will continue because it's a culture that Kenyans have brought to themselves, right, which they need to deal with.
Thank you.
But once we have a judgment made by the court,
yes,
then there is a need also to ensure that we respect the institutions and also don't demonize institutions because they have made.
Yeah, but I also know that a member of Parliament like yourself, you have the freedom to present a bill or a motion to change
a constitutional amendment bill is a tall order. I've tried it with the Senate and I can tell you, it is not something that you would want to try.
Why is it a tall order?
It's not something that you can achieve as an individual.
It is
something that requires, it's something that even the process itself is a very expensive process. You need public participation. For you to get 47 counties to participate, you need to move around the country and do all these things, something that is not achievable by an individual.
Thank you. Opere, yes. Do you also concur that nothing good seems to have come out of this 10th Parliament?
No, I don't agree to that. Actually, it is better to give credit where it is due. When you go to look after animals, maybe if you're looking after cows, and it happens during your turn, a cow delivers, you who was taking charge of them will be praised because it has happened in your turn. We have to give this Parliament credit because a lot of good things, the new constitution has come during this time. A lot of changes, a lot of legislations have been put in place by this Parliament. However, as we know, people will behave as vehicles in that we resist change. Whenever we are moving on a straight line or in a uniform motion, you need an external force to change the course. That is the same even with us. The Constitution is clear, it is august. However, because of logistics, it has been explained that it was not possible. So we cannot only continue with this tendency of lamentation now and again. I think we need to change from this and see even good to see a rose out of the thorns, not only focusing on thorns. So to me, with all those logistics, I thank the government.
Thank you. Audience now, gentlemen on my extreme right.
My name is Muriuki Ndwega, come from Embu County. And really when something is expected of you, it is good for you to do what is exactly expected of you. For example, if our athlete, David Rudisha, goes to run and becomes number 2, yet we know he's supposed to become number 1, we will say he did well, but there's what we were expecting of him. So if the parliament today can really get down to work and do what they're supposed to do, if the interpretation of the Constitution becomes an issue to them, they should engage lawyers. And if not, if it's about the elections date, then they should engage the team that was led by Zaba Gitonga when they were deciding on the election date, so that they can help them, so that they can know what they were after. Otherwise, if they just go on expecting the courts to do ABCD, I really don't think.
Thank you. Thank you. In the middle, there's a gentleman whose hand was up earlier there in a tie. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I'm from Kakamega County. I totally disagree with the members of the 10th Parliament. We gave them a contract which is actually expiring at the end of, by January. So who is going to pay them the extra 3 months they're actually giving to themselves?
Thank you. One more. Here now, come. The gentleman in spectacles.
I want to give the 10th Parliament a small plus and a very big minus for reasons that
give us your name, please.
I'm Robert Kiberenge from Nairobi County.
Okay.
There are very few things that have been achieved during this 10th Parliament. If you look at the high cost of living, Parliament has done very little. Our parliamentarians have done very little in trying to address the high cost of living. And also, there are some things that Parliament is sitting pretty while things are going out of order. If you look like something like Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, who is a deputy prime minister right now, honestly, he must not be serving in the cabinet right now, because the National Accord states very clearly it's only Parliament which can pass a vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister and his 2 deputies. Yeah. And parliamentarians are sitting pretty knowing that that man is serving in the cabinet illegally.
Thank you, Robert. And that's why we take our first break, but this discussion continues. Don't go away. Welcome back to Agenda Kenya with me, Jason Nyantino. Tonight we are focusing on the performance record of the 10th Parliament. Are you satisfied as a Kenyan with the laws that they have passed so far? My next question of the evening is from Regina Ndungu, who is the secretary.
Mine is in regards to taxation. Parliamentarians have been said to be the common mwananchi representatives in Parliament. And if we get to earn peanuts and we are taxed, shouldn't they represent us also by being taxed? And apart from giving to fundraisers and charity, what is a good reason for them not being taxed? Yes, thank you.
Honorable Chairman.
Thank you, Jason. I think many of the questions really have been comments. And one of the things that is coming out clear is that there is need for civic education, so that we get to know the role of Parliament. We get to know what is expected of individuals who have been put in places. Muriuki talked about interpretation of the Constitution. Certainly, on a daily basis, when you're applying the law, you are trying to interpret it. But the principal institution that is allowed or is mandated with that law is the judiciary. So we cannot go back to Akina Zaba and Tonga and bring them back to Parliament to interpret the Constitution for Parliament. I think it will be important that we remain respectful to interpretations that have been done by the judiciary. I agree that we, as members of Parliament, need to seize up the opportunity and perhaps introduce new laws, amendment, so that we are able to move. But it is important that we remain truthful to that. Cyprian also talked about that members of parliament are adding themselves 3 months pay. Again, a point which is really something that is being talked about which is not true.
Yeah.
If you're talking of a contract,
Quickly,
the contract comes to an end at a given
quickly,
point.
Mheshimiwa, and respond to the question on
before
tax,
I come
please.
to the issue of taxes, let me also say that the issue of high cost of living, again, there is a lot that has been done by Parliament, as in a bill being done or an act of Parliament being passed, not yet. But a lot of work has been done at the committee level. We had a committee that was looking at the decline of the shilling, and recommendations came. All these issues were meant to mitigate on that. On the issue of taxes, again, the payment of taxes, members of Parliament are paying taxes. The Constitution, and I hold this, I am among the very first individuals who volunteered to pay taxes. Not that it was a very popular thing to do, but when it became a populist thing, some of us backed out of it.
So you pay
but
tax?
I do pay taxes. But also, if you ask me, let me just...
What tax do you pay? Is it just on the basic pay?
All the taxes that need to be paid, including on the allowances and the rest. Okay. And but if you ask me, the interpretation of that constitution, I think it was alluded to when this judgment was being given that elections can be done 2013, was ideally, and I was part of the 27 in Naivasha, we didn't mutilate the constitution, Huntington. We need the credit for what we did. This is a negotiated document, and interest we must have brought everything on board. But I wanted to say this before I finish, that in my interpretation, payment of taxes were to be on the parliament that is coming, the 11th parliament. But because of all that has happened, the payments have started.
All right.
All the debate.
I'll take my next question from Geoffrey Amisi. Geoffrey, your question.
My question goes to the Chief Whip. The question is that there was this parliamentary committee which was investigating about the shoot-up of the basic commodities like fuel and food. When the recommendation came to Parliament, the discussion was that the most concerned person was the CBK governor, central bank governor. And this report is alleged that they recommended that the governor should give way and get a new governor in the CBK. But when this came into Parliament, it's alleged that some MPs were given some bribes just to make him retain his governorship seat. Is it true or false?
Thank you. Mheshimiwa, just preparing your response. Huntington, I want to hear your comment or response about that question.
I think my take again, I will respond to that question as well as Robert's question and even the issue of tax. And that's exactly what I said. When I said the current parliament has failed, I meant it, that they have failed in every way on issues that really matter. They have failed, like on the issue of tax, they even blackmailed the executive that will not pass certain legislation if you're going to tax us. On the issue that he has raised, what the current parliament does, when there's an issue, like the issue of food, the issue of Sinai fire, and indeed any other issue, they come out posturing. You will see them leading delegation, going to see the place, terrorize the central bank governor, as he says. But when serious recommendations are put that do this, then they start voting according to ethnicity and political partisanship. That was my point. And Honorable Kunia said very well that it's up to the courts to interpret the Constitution. That one, I have no problem with that. But the court comes in, and if you know, the court came in later, when Parliament did not provide the leadership. They were posted, they were wasting time so that even if a court makes a ruling, then there will be no sufficient time to organize a good and credible election. They do these frustrations, they do them intelligently. And you can say actually with impunity.
All right.
The issue Robert has said there about Honorable
Quickly.
DPM, I think ethically it's common sense. When you are charged, even the central bank governor should himself have left office. You don't have to be forced or to be convicted or to leave office now. You show dignity and exit. But in Kenya, what example are we showing? The DPM knows he cannot be removed by the current parliament because he has the numbers.
All right.
That's a fact.
Thank you. Opere. Yeah. Two things quickly. The tax and the CBK governor debate in parliament.
Just as I said, when now we look critically at each item, I would concur that at some time, the parliament has let us down. More so, when we come to the issue of the CBK governor, if the report was very much elaborate and they spent a lot of time, a lot of resources to diagnose where the problem was, and now when they concluded that this is where the problem was, instead of fixing the problem, now politics came into play. I think in that case, they let us down, because we saw the effect, the ripple effect of that, the depreciation of the shilling led to a lot of high cost of living. So instead of fixing it, and they knew where the problem was, they went aside. That one, the parliament let us down. On the issue of taxation, I think, as Mheshimiwa has said, we had a transition period. If going by that, if we were to abide by the law, if that was what the law was saying, that the taxation was to start at that time, then to me, we ought to have respected that. But because of the populism which was there that they have to pay, sometimes we might, as a people, we may want to circumvent the constitution just to satisfy the wishes of the people. However, if it is right for the MPs to pay taxes, the only problem I have with the people is that if the clauses were clear that it was to start in the 11th Parliament, then it ought to have been there. But paying tax, true, they need to pay.
Thank you. Before I go to Mheshimiwa Irungu, the CBK governor debate, then your position on payment of tax.
Well, first and foremost, I feel it is not fair for a debate when it goes to Parliament to take ethnic and regional lines. So therefore, insofar as the debate on the CBK took ethnic and regional lines, I think that's very unfair. As a parliamentarian, one should become a nationalist. You should be a person who can see things from a national and international point of view, not to restrict yourself to ethnic and regional consideration. Number two, on the issue of taxation, I would like to disagree a little bit with some of my colleagues' comments. When you look at the Constitution, we have some clauses which are not operating as of now. They will start operating after the next general election. But that clause on taxation was coming into effect immediately after we voted in this new constitution. So therefore, parliamentarians ought to have started paying taxes immediately after the new constitution came in. So therefore, I'm calling upon Kenya Revenue Authority to go and get tax in arrears.
Thank you. Honorable Kioni, as you prepare to respond, listen to a member of parliament who sought anonymity. This was on Sunday Nation recently. He said that members of parliament are normally paid between 50,000 and 200,000, depending on the weight of the issue at hand. These are bribes in the House. In fact, he says that motions of no confidence are said to be the most lucrative. When the stakes are high, politicians set aside serious money. People cannot support you for nothing.
Let me start by saying this issue of taxes, that is a very juicy topic. And everybody would want to talk about it. There are no arrears. Members paid plus the arrears. Even with that doubt in terms of whether this clause needed to have come into effect immediately or after. I hold the position that it should have come after. And I take some comfort in the judgment of Renaura, who actually did indicate that that was a part of the transition process.
Thank you.
But it has been brought to rest because payment of taxes is ongoing on a monthly basis. That is a thing behind us now. The other thing that is there is that I think there is an issue that is going on today. And I think we all need to wake up to the new laws that we have put in place. Some of these allegations that we keep making are very serious. And some were made over the weekend, and we have members of parliament who have now to answer to some questioning by the police. It is important that we remain factual so that we don't thrive on propaganda and negative perception that actually give rise to the crashes that we had 2007. We need to start dealing with issues that are factual.
Thank you. Please respond.
When you talk about the member of parliament who talks about members of parliament being paid, I think he's also not being honest. Why is it that he would want to remain anonymous? He should come out and say, it's me saying this. I'm a whip. And I will be able to see I would be able to say what he is saying.
Have we ever had anything like that in parliament?
Let me say this. If there are people who are paid, they are paid. If there are those who are not paid, there are those who are there. I have had...
So what do we do? What do we do about this?
You see, this is a debate that is there, and I want to say it's something that is very nice to peddle around, that people are paid. If there are people who are paying, so be it. And I think it's important
but
that
is it right?
there is
right then
it is wrong. There is the Powers and Privileges Committee, and there is a way of dealing with it within Parliament. And if one is found to have received payment so that his thinking is influenced one way or another, then there is an issue. But it is also important to differentiate between the robbing that is there done worldwide, not within Parliament. Why am I saying this? Because there are times that people are taken out to a retreat. Like when you have a law that you want to pass, like now I'm sponsoring a bill on pyrethrum, which I want to liberalize. I would want to take a section of members of Parliament out to a place so that we can understand, I can get them to see what is ailing the people of Nyandarua. Why is it that they need to support that side of my debate? That robbing is positive robbing.
That is
it
fine.
requires financing because I cannot be able to pay for Naivasha.
Who finances that?
Somebody, the stakeholders need to do it.
Because,
I cannot be able to do it.
If it is the private sector who finance members of Parliament to take them to Mombasa, down a south coast, we have integrity issues there.
No, I think we need to differentiate this. If, and he talked about laws that have gaps, if we need to pass good laws in Parliament, it is important that members of Parliament are also facilitated, not in terms of even going out, but even with the research assistants, people who can help them understand these laws. And for them to be able to ensure that the country gets the best, there is need to have time to study these laws. Like, for example, now, we had the RAD bill. The RAD bill was a very voluminous document. Once it is tabled on the floor of the House, and you're expected to go through it, and midnight you
fine.
pass it,
Mheshimiwa,
it cannot...
Fine. I want to take you back. Please, I want to take you back. I want to take you back a bit. How do we... Because there are allegations that money is changing hands in Parliament or within the precincts of Parliament.
Why am I saying that this member of Parliament is being dishonest? There is the Powers and Privileges Committee. He should just take it there. That information will be, and the member disciplinary action will be taken on those members. So what has taken, and it is becoming also a very popular thing, is to say that nothing happens in Parliament unless one has paid for. I have sponsored motions of no confidence. Nobody paid for them.
Has anyone ever
Members
approached
of
you?
the cabinet.
Have we ever been approached?
You will always be approached. It's upon you. It's your conscience.
You've been approached with somebody who wants to bribe you?
Yes, they will be there.
Who was that?
I don't want to say that because the guy eventually.
All right, thank you.
But
I
achieved what I wanted because what I wanted was a question of this is a corrupt position. The motion of censure is here, and the way to do is to give way.
Thank you.
And I achieved it.
Thank you very much. That is our time for our second break. Time for our second break now. And if you're watching us from home, you need to be part of this discussion by answering this question. Are you satisfied with the performance record of the 10th Parliament? You know the drill. Text your response, the number on your screen, together with your name and location. You can also follow this debate on Twitter using #AgendaKenya. We are back in a moment. Welcome back to Agenda Kenya with me, Jason Nyantino. In this program, we're looking at the 10th Parliament, and we're finding out if members of Parliament have passed the right laws. Or if you feel they haven't, then this is your chance to participate in this discussion. I go to my audience now to take a couple of questions or comments. Yes, you please.
My name is George Ambunya from Nairobi County. In my opinion, the 10th Parliament has let down Kenyans. I will agree with my fellow lawyer. For example, in the case of ICC, the 10th Parliament failed to enact laws for special local tribunal to be put in place in order for the post-election violence to be charged here. So the same member of Parliament who failed to pass laws, right now they're over the road. They're over everywhere on the road. So in the way forward, to my opinion, I would suggest that it will be wise for the current parliament to pave way for the next parliament to enact this legislation that
All right.
touches on the constitution.
Thank you,
Hence,
George.
they are part and the parcel of the stakeholder of the stakeholder that negotiated the very constitution.
Yeah. Thank you, George. I think you've made your point. Yes, the lady, second row in green.
My question goes to, I wonder why we should be taxed. On the side of the 10th parliament, we get the MPs. On the side of the most committees, like the justice and the legal committees, they are the ones who are the beneficiaries, I can say. Because they are paid more compared with the people on the ground. We are taxed and yet we are paid less. Why should we be taxed?
All right.
My solution to that.
Yes, please, quickly. Your solution, yeah.
My way out. I could prefer, because they are more paid and we are less paid, the rate of payment of taxation to vary.
All right, all right. The lady on the second row.
My name is Nyantino from Nairobi County, and I'm putting it straight to Mheshimiwa Jeremiah Kione. I want to believe that our parliamentarians are representatives, and we have some victims who have a case in the ICC. During their first meeting in the ICC, I saw our parliamentarians accompanying them to the ICC. They were singing the national anthem at the ICC. So I just want to ask Mheshimiwa Kione where he was one of them. I want to believe so. Who were they? Was he representing people from the Ndarawa constituency, or was it the government of Kenya which has a case in the ICC, or is it?
Thank you. I'll give Mheshimiwa straight. Were you in Hague?
I was in Hague and twice, and no apologies. I was representing the people of Daragwa. I was with them yesterday. They are very unhappy with selling of our sovereignty to a foreign country, to colonialists whom we kicked out of this country. I voted for the local tribunal. My mind has been very clear on this issue. Let me say this.
Thank you.
There's something that I also want to clarify.
Just add one more, then I spread it a bit, please.
One of the things you never take away from 10th Parliament, this constitution that we have will always be given to was with us, because 10th Parliament passed laws that gave timelines to themselves that were very punitive. And that is why we have a constitution on the table. However hard, Huntington, you try, you will never take that credit away from 10th Parliament.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa.
And all the 28 constitutional bills that have been done by 10th Parliament. Again, you can never take that credit away from 10th Parliament. However hard you try.
Clearly, it's your credit, eh? Huntington. Then we spread the
my take, I'm happy that Honorable Kione is one of the few people who voted for the local tribunal, and is talking about our sovereignty. At that time, even talking from my other position as chairman of the Brand Kenya board, we made a presentation to government that it was important even for country branding and even integrity that we have a local tribunal. But the members of parliament, of course, few people like him voted for it, but majority refused. And that's the point we are saying, meaning they refused and now they are seeing the need. So they failed. It's so simple. I do not know how he understands success. So but that's something else. Now, talking about the 28 bills he's talking about that they have passed, I want to tell you as Kenyans that 3/4, and I start challenging, 3/4 of the bills that the current parliament have passed, including those he's mentioning, have been through negotiations, through give and take, through beneficial for the current members of parliament. And most of them have been rejected even by the president himself. Some of them are so mutilated that they do not even have the original import of what it was meant to be. So it's not just a question of 28 bills. What is the quality of those bills? What are the amendments that are being done immediately? Are they for posterity? Are they for posterity, or are they to sustain them? The ones that we really need, like the Sinai one, the bill, those ones they have not passed. But the 28 bills that does not benefit you directly, they have passed.
Thank you very much. Now,
that's my point.
Irungu, somebody raised the issue of ICC. Do you think the 10th Parliament is to blame for taking Kenya to the ICC?
No, I don't believe that. Personally, I think the problem of the ICC has been brought about with the perception amongst Kenyans that the judiciary cannot deliver. Why? We have something that is called International Crimes Act of 2008. It was an act of parliament that was established in 2008. It gives the High Court jurisdiction to handle international crimes. So strictly speaking, those people are supposed to be before a High Court judge. So but the problem is there is a perception amongst many Kenyans, and I share that perception, that our judiciary is only for the small fish. The big fish will always go through the judiciary. So therefore, to me, that is the bottom line. To me, that is the bottom line. So therefore, as a result of that, we therefore triggered the international mechanism, which now forced our Kenyans to be taken away to the international criminal court. I would therefore propose the way forward that we have a clean judiciary, a judiciary that tries a rich man and a poor man equally. But the present judiciary, which treats a big man somehow with some form of preferential treatment, and a common mwananchi, like I don't know what, that one.
Thank you, Aaron. Very quickly, something has been raised about the quality of bills passed by the 10th Parliament. Could you please respond to that? And also, we now see the 10th Parliament live debates on television. Is that a good thing or is it a bad thing?
First of all, I must say that just on the question you've asked, it is a very big step forward to have the proceedings in Parliament, the debate being aired live. I think even the presenters themselves, when as a debater, as a member of Parliament, you have to do your homework well because you are being watched all over. Allow me to say something on lobbying. I think it is a common trend anywhere, even in church. If I'm a head of a certain department, before I bring an issue to the church board, I have to let other people know for the sake of them also being in phase with me, because I'm the one who has the vision. So I have to let others also see the same way I am seeing. So lobbying, even in church, it is good to help people see the same way you are seeing. The only problem comes now when you are induced, when your judgment is being compromised. You are being made to make judgment which could even be in contradiction to what your conscience believes, either through bribing or through any other way. In that case, if a member of parliament only votes if he is given money, then that is sin. Let me come to the issue of the quality of the bills. It is important. Even the Bible says, before you launch war in the book of Proverbs, seek advice. And a country which is being led with leaders who have no vision perishes. So it is better to seek opinion. That is why lobbying is important. That by seeking those opinions, it helps to get good quality bills. Let me move very fast in the case of ICC. Allow me to say that from what we have seen, it is very much evident that the local tribunal, the cry about the local tribunal was not about our sovereignty, but was about to subvert justice. In the case of ICC, to me, I understand it like it is the case of Mordecai and Haman in the Bible, where you made gallows, you think it is so and so is going to be hanged.
You're a real evangelist.
Yes. So if it could be Haman, if it could be Mordecai who is going to the gallows, maybe the cry would be on the other side. We need to be honest that if it was the sovereignty of our country which we were safeguarding, then in that case the parliament failed. But if it was justice, justice can be got even at ICC or even if it is here in Kibera Court.
Thank you. Mheshimiwa, I want to quote the former Justice Minister, Honorable Mutula Kilonzo, about the anti-corruption law that 10th Parliament passed. And this is what he said. Some politicians spent money in killing that law. It was mutilated, and it is ridiculous to pretend that we have an anti-corruption law. Do you agree?
True. There's as whether money was spent, I don't want to go with those, because this issue of propaganda is not useful for this country. But as to whether the act is weak, I agree it is weak. Why? Because, and this is why it becomes a bit uncomfortable sometimes inside there. the individuals as members of parliament who are part of the making of this law themselves have interest, they have cases, and you can even go to the Hansard because some of us said it, they have cases pending before ICC, before CASA. And for that reason, they would have been very keen to see where is it that they can get away with it. But by and large, it is a good starting point. The law can be amended. We are still struggling as to who should come on board so that becomes the man in charge of CASA.
But then what happened to the nominees?
Some of us objected to those nominees because we thought that they will not be able to do what is expected of them.
So what is the process
There
now?
is like it has been left in purgatory. But we hope that when we came back,
Parliament and make noise on our
I will
behalf.
tell you what happens. Before we dealt with it in last session, one of the principals wrote a letter to Parliament and said, I'm withdrawing my support to those names. And what does that? You bring some bit of paralysis. That is where we are. And that is also what happens with the issue of the government, the law of devolution. So this, you can literally see that the actors in these things, even as we try to talk about tribalism, ethnicity, which seems to vary from time to time depending on who is defining it and who is being talked about.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. Now, Gaia, I want to take you back to the leadership and integrity bill or section actually of the Constitution. What is the way out? Because we are complaining from January to January, yet we have Chapter 6 of the Constitution. Yeah. What is your take?
I think my take is for us to interpret integrity from a normal English sort of dictionary. We should not allow that definition to be done by Parliament. Because again, the same issue that we are talking about, which even Honorable Kione has said, will be used to define integrity. So it will not be the integrity that we know about. He has mentioned very ably that the Anti-Corruption Act was tampered with or watered down because some members have cases with the anti-corruption. So you may imagine now when most of our current politicians have got cases that hinges on integrity. You can imagine what will be the definition of integrity. For me, where I stand or where I sit, integrity is even personal. You don't need to legislate on it. It's like, to me, it's like ethics. It should be in you. If you feel you hold a public position because you hold that in trust for the public, and even one or two people question your position, integrity demands that you exit smoothly. You don't need an act of parliament or an ethics code for integrity.
To have integrity.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And that's why we come to the very end of this week's edition of Agenda Kenya. I thank my studio audience and my panel for that wonderful discussion, and to all of you at home for watching. You can still be part of this discussion by responding to this question. Are you satisfied with the performance record of the 10th Parliament? By now you know the drill. Text your response to the number on your screen together with your name and location. You can also follow this discussion on Twitter using hashtag Agenda Kenya and also our Facebook link. We do this again next week, so be sure to join us. And until then, bye-bye.